Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series. Today is our 85th series and it's going to be a book review session by Srimati Rohini Vaishnavi. We begin with our prayer by Krishnaveni ji. Veni has appeared many times in our series and she is a student of Dr. Harini. She has rendered Kirtis in perfect Sanskrit. We're very happy having her today. Veni ji?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskar. I am going to read a few verses from Shivananda Lahari, shlokas 21 and 23. Dhrudistambhadharam Dridaguna-nibhatam Sagamanam Vichitram Padmatyam Pradidivasa Sanmarga Ghatitam Smarare Machetah Spudapadakutim Prapya Vishadam Jayaswamin Shaktya Saha Shivaganaihi Sevita Vibho Karomi Tvat Pujam Sapati Sukhado Me Bhava Vibho Viditvam Vishnutvam Dishasi Khalu Tasya Phalamiti Punaschatvam Drashtum Divi Bhuvi Vagan Pakshi Mrigatam Adrishtva Tatkedam Tadamiha Sahe Shankara Vibho.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Veni ji. I just wanted to introduce Veni ji to our main speaker today, Madam Wakhlu. And you know Rohini ji. Rohini ji has been always with us on book reviews. That is Krishna Veni ji. She's part of the music circle here. And her renderings in Sanskrit are so perfect. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We thank Sri Kanchimat for our ongoing Kashmir initiatives. Offer our namaskaram to His Holiness Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. Kanchimat is always in the forefront, modestly working with the sole aim of national integration, spiritual enlightenment, and preserving the uniqueness of Kashmir. Kashmir is our cultural heritage. We are very pleased to have Rohini ji back in our book review sessions. And she has been helping us a lot and covered so far. I think Rohini ji is about 6 or 7 book reviews you have done so far.
Yeah, 7. I think this is the 8th one. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining. And we are also very happy to have Madam Wakhlu. And only yesterday I found out her son already appeared in our series. That was on, I think, 68th series, Invigorating Devi Sharda, Healing the Generational Trauma. I also read about Madam Wakhlu's background. Rohini ji wanted me to just review. Really, you should have appeared in our program on your own before. Maybe after the book session, we are going to have you and share your experience. I'm going to hand over to Rohini ji and sit along with the audience and join towards the end.
Namaskar, Mr. Shankar, and my pranam to His Holiness. Pranam, Mrs. Wakhlu. Thank you, Sri Kanchimat, once again for having this book session and book review session and having me here. It's a great privilege, as Mr. Shankar was talking to me backstage, and he said, you at least are pushed towards reading a lot of books, and that is the biggest advantage for me to conduct these sessions. Today,
I'll let you take over now.
Sure. So I'm very happy to have with us tonight Mrs. Khemlata Wakhlu. It's a real honor and a real pleasure to have you, ma'am. More because um, you are a woman from Kashmir, an octogenarian who has a vast, made a vast contribution in all these years while you've been active in politics as a writer. So today we are going to talk about her book, A Kashmiri Century. And before we talk about the book, I'll give a very brief introduction of Mrs. Wakhlu. Mrs. Khemlata Wakhlu is a writer, a political leader, and a social worker who has devoted the past 45 years to improving the lives of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. She's held important political positions in the National Conference, the Awami National Conference, and the Indian National Congress, and has served as a member of the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly for 12 years, as a Minister of Tourism in the state from 1984 to 1986. She was the chairperson of the state's Social Welfare Board with the status of a Minister of Cabinet rank from the year 2010 to 2014. And she continues to serve as a senior advisor to Jammu and Kashmir Pradesh Congress Committee. And in addition to being active in politics and as a social worker, she is a prolific writer. She has many books in her credit, books of poetry and prose written in Hindi and English, and many of her books have been adapted by the television and aired on Doordarshan. And she's also a sitar player. Welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
So, to briefly talk about this book, A Kashmiri Century, it's a book which is not a fiction. It's a real story, not even a story. It's a conglomeration of multiple anecdotes which are related to Dhar family and their famous Rishi Vihar, which was their home in Safa Kadal, very close to my home.
Oh, wonderful.
We lived in Chattabal, so
Acha,
it
acha.
was quite
Very
close
nice.
by. Yeah. So it's the small anecdotes from this family which go back to I think the four generations back. It was your great grandfather, Mr. Kashinath, from where the anecdotes start. So through these anecdotes, Mrs. Wakhlu has actually documented the way of life of people back then when it was difficult to travel even to Lucknow, when it used to take many months altogether
Yes.
to visit Lucknow, where his great grandfather, Mr. Kashinath, had traveled and lived for quite some time. So it's a documentation of a life, uh, the rituals, the culture, the way people thought during those days. In a very humorous manner, she has brought out the innocence of the people through the anecdotes like your family helper becoming a ghost all of a sudden and scaring the people away. And those were the times when we did not have televisions, when we did not have any source of entertainment, but that was the time when there was a strong bond between people, and that was the source of entertainment. That was a lot of moral support. So though these stories have been weaved around this family, and there is a chapter which is dedicated to Article 370 in Kashmir, and there is one chapter which is dedicated to the Islamic invasion. There is another chapter which is dedicated to the radicalization in Kashmir. So, to begin with, Mrs. Wakhlu, my first question to you would be that being a woman, I mean, you have definitely, mentioned in the book that you belong to one of the privileged families, which were not only economically better, but you had the privilege of having grandparents, Mr. Ramchandra and Shrimati Mal. So, who always thought ahead of time.
That's right, yes.
So, you have
Actually,
also
because of,
you were also
shall I start?
educated in Germany. Yeah, I'll just finish. You were also educated in Germany, where you went to pursue your degree in home science, and then you joined politics. So, was it a cakewalk for you being a part of that privileged family, or did you also face the normal difficulties that women normally face?
Actually, you have, in a nutshell, you have almost depicted the whole story of this book. This book. But I must tell you one thing: it was not a cakewalk, because cakewalk means that because society, as you know, even now we have so many inhibitions, so many problems, especially for girls. You can imagine in 40s, early 40s, there were do's and don'ts. There were so many inhibitions. And then society was not modern at all at that time. And old type of thing, feudal system was still prevailing in our country, in Kashmir also, as other parts of India. So it was not cakewalk. When I came back from Germany and from England, where I spent good time along with my family. I had two children at that time when we went to England. I was quite young. My marriage was when I was hardly 15, 16-year old. But in my case, my husband and myself, he was also studying, he was an engineer studying in Banaras Hindu University, whereas I was also studying. And
Okay.
same time, after that, we had children and we went to England and also subsequently to Germany. But I have learned lots there.
So
Cakewalk
with
in the sense that it was quite hard working. It was lot of hard work. And you can imagine children along with us. My husband was very supportive. He was
hmm,
also learning. I was also learning. So it
hmm,
was we were I should say that it was just fish in the water. I had to swim somehow, and
hmm.
it was quite okay. It was nice. It was not easy, but it was nice. And of course, as you say, that privileged home. Well, in a way, yes, that helped me a lot. That was a
But you were
help.
married at
I mean,
15,
helping. I was
and
married and I had children in 20th year after 3 years. Till then we were both studying. My husband
hmm,
was in Banaras Hindu University studying
yeah.
his engineering, and I was also here studying along with music and other things. So it was
So a
quite
lot.
nice. But later, but I must say that my this politics and writing, the seed was sown in Germany and in
Hmm,
England. Because girls, I found that all the ladies are doing lots of work, social
hmm,
work. And I had privilege because my husband was Commonwealth scholar, and I had privilege to move with those ladies. As a kid, they would pamper me a lot, and I was also going with those ladies to those places, some societies, YMCA and other social, wherever social work was going on, they were associated with that. And I was also going with those ladies, where I found that we have to do something for our women folk, for our people in general, and women in particular.
So
So
your
that was,
exposure to West turned out
huh?
to be so your exposure to the Western society and
Of
it
course,
turned
of
out to
course.
be a major motivation for you and an eye
It
opener,
was
I
a
would say.
major, of course, it was a major motivation. And of course, maybe I had little inclination towards that also, that otherwise so many people go there, but
Yes.
it was, motivation was there, no doubt about
So could it have been because of the formative years of yours? You mentioned that your home used to be frequented by mystics like um,
it. Oh
N-
yes,
uh,
yes, yes.
Nandabab and Gratabab and Krishnaju Razdan kind of people. Then you were also
Krishnaju
impacted.
Razan and
Yeah.
Lama Gurus. Lama Guru means Buddhist priest. Kashyap Bakola had come to our home, and
Hmm.
it was cross culture sort of thing and spiritual also.
Right.
Therefore, it was quite vibrant experience for me.
So you also, in this book, you have also talked about the contributions of many people, such as Mr. Shiv Narayan Potedar. He was the tallest figure among the Kashmiri
That's right.
Pandits,
That's right.
who was the president of the All State Kashmiri Pandit Conference, the
Correct.
uh,
Correct.
oldest and longest surviving organization of the Kashmiri Pandits, right from
Hmm.
1931. And you have also mentioned Mr. Kashyap Bandhu, who worked towards the emancipation of women. He fought against the widow. He worked for the widow remarriage, and also changing the attire of the Kashmiri Pandit from those heavy ferns to wearing a sari, which was kind of giving them freedom. So
That's
you
true.
have also been in touch with people like them.
That is true. Kashobandos, I didn't have sort of very close association with him, but I have heard lots about him because in our house, in our home, he was talked quite frequently and quite nicely about his achievements and what he did and what he not did. But as far as Shivnarayan Fotedar is concerned, he was family friend, or
Hmm.
rather I would say he was just member of our family, and I had very close association. I used to call him uncle. He was like more than uncle to us. And his, maybe it was influence, I have seen him quite closely, and he was talking, they were all talking about politics, how they were doing it, how this should be done, that should be done. Maybe that might have been, as a child I was also one of the one of the member of the family. I was listening very keenly about these things. It may have influenced my opinion and my ideas also.
Mr. Fotedar was a man who never used to mince words.
Oh
I have
yes,
read it in the diary of my grandfather, Mr. Amarnath
okay,
Vaishnavi,
yes,
which we later which we have later documented in his biography, The Chronicles of Kashmir. He has
yes,
himself
yes,
written in his handwriting about an episode of Pandit Shivnarayan Fotedar, where he directly confronted Mr. Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah on the
oh
stage.
yes, yes,
He
yes.
was
He was,
bold enough.
actually, that is true, because Shivnarayan Fotedar was President Yuvak Sabha at that time.
Yes.
He was elected member, elected president. And then what I have heard and what I have observed also, he was, I mean, very, very great personality, very well read and knowledgeable, wonderful orator, and his ideas modern and keeping with the people. and also for his own community. He was devoted to that very much. And I was quite influenced by these things. For that matter, my other uncle was also uh, president municipality elected, Shambhunath Dhar.
Yes, you
And my
mentioned.
family, therefore, politics was naturally it came. It was not very something which was alien to me. I think it was natural. I wanted to work for the people. I wanted to for upliftment of the lady folk, women folk. So it was the easiest thing to, go in for politics. That too, when I came back from Germany, and I
So then,
wanted to do something.
yeah. So then you have mentioned somewhere in the book that Kashmiris have this trait in them of siding with whoever is the strongest, and this is what they have picked up over centuries. So
Over
my next connected question is your joining of national conference at that point in time in
actually,
1975.
actually, I fought first election as independent
Okay.
in Kashmir after coming back from Germany. And at that time, I went, and my campaign was so privately done, not with halagula and money. I
Hmm.
had no idea at all about how to go about these things. But though some people whom I met, young tourists, I should say, young
Hmm.
boys, they helped me a lot. And my I used to go from door to door. I saw so much uh, poverty condition of people which was unimaginable. I had never seen that part of Kashmir. I had never seen that before. The misery, the how they used to live was too
Hmm.
much for me to see. Yeah, I was confined to one side of our society. But in this case, I saw cross section of people everywhere. The people were living very bad, and the women folk, they were really horrible in horrible condition. So the determination came again much more. I was determined to do something for the people here in that which I saw with my own eyes. That situation was not good. And at that time also people were saying too much of this uh, corruption, misgovernance or something. People were saying that we are not getting this, we are not getting. That was too much eye opener for me.
So that was a time when women were not in politics. How is it
Women
for you?
were not in politics, but women condition was horrible.
How was it for
Whosoever
you
was,
personally to be there, and how were you received as a woman candidate?
I would say this was something new thing for
Hmm.
people. They were curious about these things. I mean, one lady was coming boldly to the lanes and by lanes of people. I think they didn't took me as sort of in a bad sense, but
Okay.
or perhaps they were curious about me or something like that. They would come forward. They would talk to me. I used to ask them some questions like, आपके पास ये है, वो है, बराबर है, बिजली है, क्या चाहिए आपको? What do you want to have? What is lacking? What would you like to have? And they would come forward for small favors.
And
If
what was the motivation behind joining national conference?
wherever I went and found that Sheikh Mohammed Sahab, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah was very popular leader here. Very, very, wherever we went. At that time, I think he was freed, I think, but he was very, very popular. I went and I didn't join that. In fact, what happened actually, it is a big story. How I was not very keen to join any party at that time
Hmm.
after the election, which I lost. But somehow these things happened in such a way that they offered me. They came to my home, some of them to join their party, and naturally I didn't have any hesitation. I joined them when he formed his national conference again in 75. I joined that party,
And later
and
you,
it was a big story which I have already written how I went into this politics, party politics. I have written my autobiography, which
okay,
is yet to come out, yet to be
all right,
published. So
okay.
I'm on it, and in that, all the aspect of my life will come. And how I went into this, and then I changed, and so many changes were there, which I
After
have
that, you
already.
left them and you were a part of the rebel group of
It
Mr.
is all
Shah.
written. Everything is written. Everything.
Okay. Okay. So
Because if I'm going to narrate the whole thing,
now, then
it
there will be nothing for the forthcoming books.
will be away from our book.
Yes, sure. So I'm looking forward to reading that as well.
Oh, sure, sure.
Now, my next question to you is: you have mentioned, about the Islamic invasions shaping the psyche of Kashmiri Pandits over almost a century, and which also, later on in the early 20th century, after Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, he took over as the prime minister at that time. Then
Not at
came
that
the,
time, 75.
not in
Before that,
75, but before,
47.
between
Ah,
48 to
before, yes,
54.
yes. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
So that was the time when the psyche was gradually
Article.
transforming,
Ah, ah,
and
ah,
then came the act of land to tillers,
that's right,
and
yes.
according to which all the land which belonged to the Kashmiri Hindus and the Dogras, who had received it as a gift from the
That's right.
government officials, because they used to do well, they were
It went
intellectually
to,
superior, and
mhm,
because of that they had received that, and the land went to the tillers, who were mostly the Muslims of Kashmir.
mhm.
That was one. And then you have also mentioned that later on, after 1960s, when the Parmeshwari agitation happened, that was a time when Kashmiri Pandits were actually, they were started to be treated as the second grade citizens. They were not getting access to the kind of jobs that they used to have earlier. They were not getting admissions in
That is
educational
true. That is
institutions
correct.
in spite of having good grades. So there was a lot of what you would say, they were treated as the second grade citizens. And then you've also talked about the Zulju's attack, who was a Turk, who attacked, who had attacked in the early 13th century, and you mentioned that that kind of fear started coming back, something that had
Sure,
happened
sure.
in 13th century. The Zulju, who had attacked people while they were celebrating the Vitasta day,
That's right.
and
Yes,
a lot of
yes,
people
yes.
were killed, some were drowned, family members separated. So that was a very gruesome episode. So you mentioned
Oh,
that something that had happened in 13th century, that was still carried on. So can you tell us something about that?
well, it is a very, very sad story. As far as Kashmiris of this place, Kashmiri Hindus of Kashmir are concerned, they have had 7 exodus. It was not only 13th century. 13th century was one of the exodus, the problem of this uprise and other things. At that time, everybody was Hindu.
Yes.
In Kashmir, Hindu, there was no other religion than Hindu. Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri other Hindus also were living here. And I have given a little brief account of this, how they were massacred, what has happened. It is said that the fear, when you are going to narrate this whole thing, how it happened, why it happened, so naturally that those scars and those wounds don't heal immediately. They don't heal.
Pass on from
You are
generation.
in your psyche, you are carrying those wounds and those hurt and also those scars within.
Mm.
They are hidden, subconscious mind. And
Yes.
this is what has happened this time also. And one thing I must tell you, actually, in in time of this, when there was a rule of these Pathans and other things. At that time also, Kashmiri Hindus or Kashmiri Pandits were on a very high uh, these assignments, government assignments, because there was no other community who was studying. They were reading or writing. They were barred from that. Mullahs and Maulvis didn't allow those people to read and write. There was only one community, that was Kashmiri Hindus, and this was going on for up to Dogra Raj. Before that, also there were Kashmiri Hindus. For that matter, my great grandfather Nandaram Tiku, they were in the government,
Yes.
and Mirza Panditdar, Birbal Panditdar, they were like that. So many people, Kach Rose and other people were in government jobs, and they were having these kind of jobs because of their knowledge, because of their literacy, and because of their aptitude towards learning to new things. People from Iran came, they learned
Mm.
Farsi.
Yes.
People from these Pathans came, they learned their language, that Pashto or whatever it was.
Mm.
English people came, they learned English, because we have no bar from learning new things. Wherever we go, I went to Germany, my children, they went to German school, and they could speak very fluently. Well, so immediately after independence, everything was changed. As you have mentioned, that land to tiller and other things, it was a shock to our own community. And those wounds which were hidden had come out in from their psyche, and they were scared also. And after this uprise, this terrorism and other things,
You've
I
also
have written
mentioned the radicalization of Kashmir.
radicalization.
You
It
have
was due to
mentioned,
petrodollars, due to so much money and so much this Islamic uprise, you can say, more so because of money and uh,
you
this.
talked about the influence of Ayatollah Khomeini and Saddam Hussein, how they were keeping an eye on what was happening in Iran. Um,
Everybody was very keen. And another thing was there, since I had tremendous contact with everybody in Kashmir, without any caste, creed, and color, everyone. They were lured towards Saddam Hussein, because they thought perhaps he just like hero. And
yeah.
Khomani also, the influence was there. Suddenly in Kashmir, so many people began to have those abayas and something like that. So, and it was because of Saudi Arabia, the money, petrodollars, and radicalization, that also
Yes.
traveled to this place and spoiled the ethos of this place. But at the same time, I must tell you one thing. When Sheikh Sahab was alive, these things They wouldn't dare to do this kind of thing in his presence. But as soon as he was no more here in this world, all sorts of these things. And misgovernance, mm, on top of it, radicalization and brainwashing across the border, horrible narrations on TV and TV, Mrs. Bhutto and other things that spoiled the whole. People thought that it is a something unique thing is going to happen, a revolution.
You were, you were a part of the government for some time, and you were a part of the politics. If I ask you what could have been done differently by the successive governments, which could have averted 1990, what would that be?
I think there was no will to curb it on the part of government. I am talking about central government, although I am I'm still in Congress. Will means you have to be ruthless about these things. If you want to curb it, it's not very difficult. But then everything was eroded. Everything was let loose, and that is what will happen. And another thing is, when all is said and done, it had to happen to give lessons to everyone. Not only we also had to learn. We means Hindus and Muslims. Everybody had to learn lessons because Hindu had a strange type of feeling that if we go there, we will be welcome anywhere in India. Muslims had uh, sort of notion that whole Islamic world will come to rescue us and free us or whatever. I don't know what kind of imagination they had in their brain. So it was for both the communities, for all the communities, eye opener. Everybody, every country goes for their own benefits and other things.
So
And
you have written about Article 370 briefly, abrogation of the Article 370, and you have mentioned that you wrote that um, when this thing was announced, people were living, since you live in Kashmir and you never moved out, and you are in touch with the locals, you were in touch with the locals, and you've written that the life went on as usual. Normal Kashmiris
absolutely, I
were
am
always
an
wondering how this Article 370 is going to help them.
I
So,
am an eyewitness to the whole thing. I didn't go anywhere. I was living here along with my family. At that time, people of Kashmir, they are not fools. They may, because somebody may uh, allure them with emotional things for a moment, they can understand. But nowadays, everything is open. Whatever you used to, if we used to call this has happened and all sorts of imaginary things, they would believe. But now everything is seen by themselves on the television. Whole world has become a small world.
yes,
Everything is in your laptop.
yes, true.
Nothing is hidden these days, and everybody knows that 370 was already finished. All the articles, whatever was there in that has been eroded already. There was only skeleton, just skeleton. But why they think they have nothing else to sell to the people, and it is a vote bank. mm, One thing for vote banking thing to give emotional thing to the people, and they will get emotional attached to this. Otherwise, 370 has no meaning now.
So
What
what
is
you mean
there
to say is
in
that
that?
Article 370 was merely a tool which was used to, touch the emotions of
Now
people.
I say that all the articles were eroded already, one by one. What is remaining there now? Previously, it used to be a Prime Minister of Kashmir,
Yes,
J&K state, Prime Minister separate. That
yeah.
is a big thing. What it used to be, that was demolished, and everybody accepted. Even Sheikh Saab accepted that. He was Chief Minister. What was there now? Communication, that was eroded. Supreme Court of India, that was also, people used to go there. So judiciary, what was there now? Skeleton.
So you
And
mean to
that
say that
skeleton is used only for the purpose of elections and other things, nothing else.
whatever this hue and cry about Article 370 abrogation, and now Supreme Court is also going to hear some pleas asking to reinstate. So do you think that it's all, I mean, it's all meaningless because it's
Uh,
actually
to
not doing
me,
anything?
it looks absolutely meaningless. But I don't know other people's opinion. I can't say anything about that. Why they are emotionally blackmailing the people, rousing their uh, emotions. That's all.
Okay. So you also mentioned at few places in the book about the contribution of Maharaja Hari Singh in promoting the modernizing the education of J&K. Can you elaborate on that?
I couldn't follow your question.
Yeah. What I'm asking is that in at many places in the book you have talked about the role of Maharaja Hari Singh in modernizing the education in Jammu and Kashmir.
He has also done lots, but after 47, after independence, it was, I mean, mushroom growth of schools and colleges in Sheikh Sahab's time. That started everywhere in the country, everywhere, other parts of the country also, and in our state also was done by Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. I mean, mushroom growth of education. It was
You spoke
done in
about
his time. Of course, he didn't have so much means at that time, but at the time of Hari Singh Maharaja or previous, or that was, it had started. So college was established here. Other colleges also were established. This Amar Singh College and Hari Singh College, SV College, Sri Pratap Hari Singh College. That was so. These two three things were there, but mushroom growth happened after independence.
You mentioned at some places
It
that
was not
Maharaja
so
Hari Singh
common
used
at
to.
that time, but it was start. Actually, Maharaja has started it.
You mentioned that he used to send people abroad for education and bring in the best
That
practices.
is that is
Even
true.
people from your
That is
family
correct.
also
That is true.
went abroad.
Oh yes. So many people were sent abroad. So many people in uh, different departments. They were sent for higher education and for experience also.
You have mentioned that with the Islamic invasions, the status of women in Kashmir deteriorated considerably. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That people are afraid of sending their daughters for learning music, it was a taboo, or sending them for education, all those things. There was a transformation because prior to that, probably the
No,
society
but
was
I
more
must tell
open.
you, that is true. I must tell you one thing. What I have heard from it's, I mean, I have heard it from my grandfathers and from my elders that Kashmir was a hub of education. Kashmir was hub of knowledge for whole India. And women of this place were very advanced in so many spiritually and educationally also. There are some instances like Leelavati and so many. They have had discourses with Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya ji. So, so many women folk had quite advanced in their knowledge and
We had
spiritually
Lalishwari, we had
advanced, like
Haba
Lal
Khatun.
Ded, huh?
Hmm. Haba
Lal
Khatun,
Ded, Haba
Lalishwari, which were
Khatun, Lal Ded, Arnimal, and they used to read and write, and they were quite educated. So many ladies. So it is a fact. But coming to this Islamization, they were not. They was taboo in these things, education and other.
so Mrs. Waklu, it was really a pleasure having this discussion with you. After reading the book, talking to you, and learning much more, which is beyond what is written in the book, that was of immense pleasure. And it
That's
was a real pleasure, talking to you. Uh, Thank you so much for accepting this invite and being here
no,
with
it
us
was
today.
my pleasure, really. I'm so looking forward to meeting you personally now. To
Absolutely. I
all of
think I
you.
have to do
Thank
that. Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Namaskar. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you, Madam Aklu, and thank you, Rohini ji. As always, it was a very interesting interview, and you've gone through the book. I have not gone through the book, but still, I could feel that you covered most of the things in the book. And Madam Aklu, I thought I could ask you a few questions. Before that, there
Yes.
were few questions here too. Let us see. There was a long. I hope you can read. Namaskar, madams. Were you
Namaskar.
also influenced by the socialists on the left in Europe, Madam Khemlata ji? And in the post-independence days, how did the Kashmiris in England particularly respond? You're able to read this?
Secularism.
You were influenced by socialists on the lefts in Europe. I mean, he's just saying that. Were you
Well,
also influenced?
well, I believe in humanity. I don't know what is socialism, what is other ism, but humanity is one, and whosoever comes in that, I love everybody, and we have to work for the whole world. Because after all, if we see that whole universe is Shiva's dance, Lord Shiva's dance, and we are all Shiva's people. And of course, I'm deviating a little bit from my basic subject, but everybody human being is same. I don't believe this ism and that ism, but humanity, and I love everyone. If you call it socialism, I'll say okay, it's okay. If you call it other thing, it doesn't matter to me. I think everybody is equal, everybody is lovable, human beings are same, but we have to have proper attitude towards everyone. Respect.
No, Rohini ji already asked me that I should go through your background, which is very, very impressive. So I did some search and read about this, which I think is worth mentioning here. What it says, she recounts her experience with terrorists when she and her husband were both kidnapped and held hostage for over 45 days. The ethos remained. They were hostages, but the respect and the ethos were pervasive in the way the abductors behaved with them. That should have been a nightmare. Why was it reported widely in the press that you were
Of
kidnapped and
course, it was reported. It was throughout reported. Uh, have you heard about Dora Swami? Dora Swami's
Dorai
kidnapping?
Swami. Yeah.
Dora
Doraiswamy?
Swami. And immediately after that, my husband and myself. It was
Oh,
reported, and it was traumatic experience for both of us, my
that's
husband
going to
and
be one
myself.
series one day. Huh? We are going to have a series on that one day.
It is a big story, and we have written a joint book about kidnapped 45 days with the militants in Kashmir. Is a book which we both have written, experiences and the traumas, pains and sorrows, wounds, which I told you just now, those everything. But at the same time, it was Shiva's dance and Maya. Would you
My,
believe me why I say Maya? In one place morning we used to be in hell, virtual hell. And in the evening we used to be, they would shift us from one place to place. And in that it was just heaven. It was going on fun. And Maya, I have experience going
my,
through the Maya because as a kid, as a child, we were in our families, everybody talk about this world is narak hai. And that also I have heard as a kid, and later on also in our scriptures and everything. Maya, I had heard lots about Maya. Maya, I have, but we both, my husband and myself, I have experienced it absolutely with my mind, body, and everything. And Maya is really the absolutely correct word. Maya means you everything is transient. Nothing remains the same way. But we are it is a illusion. But I have seen it, I have experienced it. And so many other things I have experienced during that 1.5 months experience. But that was all spiritual for me. Those torture, those going into those rivers, going their erratic behavior, guns, toting guns, and everything. It is a altogether another story, and it will take me at least 2-3 hours to
no,
tell.
we will have to cover that. You mentioned Narag, right?
Huh?
Which is a Tamil word, Naragam, I think.
And another thing which I experienced myself was that the supernatural powers, because how we were saved, why this happened, was ordained. Maybe it was from my karma going through this along with my husband and going through the tremendous pain, tremendous hurt, and their erratic behavior. The way
Yeah.
we tackled everything was, I wouldn't wish that anybody should go through those horrible things. But at the same time, I'm really thankful to God, thankful to this existence, to Shiva, that he put us through this whole thing. And it was something which was had to show me something different, that it was really maybe he put us into this situation, but it is a great thing, and it was really spiritually loaded thing, and we had to go through that, and it was just going through agni pariksha, and it was agni pariksha where we had to be put by God Almighty, Shiva Almighty. It was his dance, his play. At that time,
That
we
is how
didn't know that it was.
most of the Kashmiri Pandits explain that way. Shiva's dance, karma, that is how we are
I,
also
I
conditions.
actually, because Kashmir Shaivism is uh, inclusive, we don't differentiate because this is the whole universe, this whole earth and everything is his creation. She was creation. What we are doing, it is his dance. His dance is going on every time, in everything, whatever has happened. And this was also karmic thing. What our brethren, Kashmiri Hindus, as well as Kashmiri Muslims have gone through. They also went through hell. We also went, everybody has gone through hell. But it was ordained to Kashmir and Kashmiris. It had to
No, I
happen.
know Rohini ji covered most of the points so well in their own unique style. And I have to ask this question, which I always ask most of the Kashmiri Pandits. You have moved very closely with the circle, inner circle, and all the people. Every time I read in the press, Kashmir is not complete without Kashmiri Pandits. Do they really mean that?
It is Kashmir is
Not
Kashmir
complete without
complete
Kashmiri
without
Pandits.
Kashmir
Kashmiri
is
Pandits.
because Kashmir is a hub of culture, heritage for all the Sanatanis and for India. India is not complete without Kashmir because Kashmir
Correct.
has given Kashmir has given everything to India and vice versa from South. South India, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya ji, when he came to from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, that was an integration of India. It's not today that we have learned this small word, that integration. It has been done ages ago, thousands years old, because Pandits and Hindus of all India have been integrated by these thoughts, these ideals, this heritage, our philosophy, our philosophers. They have united India. It's not today's word. Now they said integration. It was there. We had forgotten it. Everybody had forgotten it. But it was there when uh, Abhinav Gupta came, when Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, then Kumara Jiva, he went from Kashmir to China, to Tibet to China to Japan, gave new ideas, new religion, new thought to the whole world. China, Japan, Indonesia. If you go on counting these things, this is Kashmir. And that is South India, which has integrated both South and North, plus in between whatever is written, whatever remaining in India. There have been integration for thousands years, integration of thoughts, integration of language, Sanskrit, integration of our these rituals, integration of our heritage. This is not today's thing. This is very old, ancient, and which we are now going to revive again with God's grace and your efforts, Shankarji.
No, we are very happy to see you speaking from Srinagar. Not many have joined us from Srinagar. That we are so delighted. And we want to see more Kashmiri Pandits talking to us from Srinagar.
Oh, why not? Why not? That's right. Yeah.
We're
So
looking
thank
forward
you
to
very
that.
much. Yes, we look forward to that. We also.
Oh,
So
thank
thank you
you
so
so
much
much.
for the
Yeah, I'm
presentations and the interview today. It was very interesting. As I mentioned earlier, we would like to have you on your own. And thankfully, Rohini ji introduced you today. And we will have one session like our 100th series. Maybe you should join us.
Oh, sure, sure. Okay. It has been my pleasure, and I was delighted to talk to you and talk about the overall things about the religion, about the Sanatan, about my book is, it was, Bahana.
Rohini ji, I was
Oh,
just telling her that her son appeared and she should be very proud. And we have a saying in Tirukkural, which is often quoted by Prime Minister Modi ji, La
mm.
fête nationale française, July 14. Modi ji quoted the same Tirukkural
Oh, that's wonderful.
wordings.
Uh,
You should go and then watch that. He has even explained the Tamil. He is now very familiar with Tamil. He speaks Tamil
oh,
everywhere he
oh,
goes,
wonderful,
and he
wonderful.
quotes Tirukkural. You should listen to his speech in France and find the meaning of that. And
I
that is
sure.
exactly how Madam Wakhlu would have felt about her son.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again sometime
Very.
soon.
Thank you very much.
Namaskar,
Thanks.
Rohini ji. Thank you
Namaskar.
for the
Namaskar.
wonderful interview session today.
Thank you so much.
We thank all our viewers today. That was a very fascinating and interesting interview, as always, by Rohini Vaishnavi. And the book is available. You can buy it directly from Amazon, or it must be in the bookshelves. We have been covering several books on Kashmir, and some have started thinking about writing them or translating in Tamil. So we have lots of libraries coming up. So we will have all these books in print in the south. So that's a great opportunity for us to learn about the events in Kashmir. As always, we thank Kanchimat channels for live streaming, and also Kamakodida.tv, VDSP for the streaming support. Not to forget, Dinamalar, India's only leading Tamil newspaper that has been covering our Kashmiri series. Till we meet in another 2 weeks' time, Jai Jai Shankara, Hare Hare Shankara.